With the e-learning market being valued these days at around $200 billion, it's easy to understand why a lot of people might want to get involved. The problem is it's become so saturated these days, it's made it very, very hard, near on impossible for people to actually stand out and sell their courses profitably. This compounded by the fact you've got tons of articles out there with 50 or 100 different ways of marketing your online course, most of which simply aren't going to work in this day and age. Maybe 3-4 years ago when online courses were first coming out, but in a market as competitive as it is right now, most of these strategies simply aren't going to work. So in this video, I'm going to break down some of the core principles that you need to focus on in order to give yourself the best possible chance of selling and growing an online course or e-learning business profitably. Let's get straight into it. I'm going to break this video down by the different stages of the buyer journey, from how to initially generate awareness to then how do we turn that awareness or that traffic into leads, and then how do we turn those leads into customers and raving fans who are going to buy more courses in higher amounts. However, before we get into all that, there are a couple of key things that you really need to think about before trying to marketing your online course. One of the reasons I see a lot of courses failing to ever grow these days is because they really struggle to find that balance in the selling price of the course to the cost to acquire a customer. If you're thinking about selling a course for under £200 or $200 and you don't have any other back-end offers to maximize the value of that customer over time, you're really going to struggle in this day and age to sell your course profitably unless you can build up a substantial organic following. If you can't get your price higher than that, you need to be asking yourself, is the problem you're solving really valuable enough to your audience or the portion of the audience you're marketing to? I always give this example of like chiropractors, right? Chiropractors in theory can market to anyone with a bad back. Do I really want to waste my time or my advertising dollars on marketing to people who have just got a bit of a bad back today? Because if I'm an experienced chiropractor and I charge thousands of pounds for my services and someone's just got a bit of a bad back when they woke up this morning, it's very unlikely they're going to want to pay me for my services. They'd probably much rather take a painkiller and get on with their day. Whereas if I'm speaking to somebody who's suffered with chronic back pain for the past 10 years and it's now affecting every single area of their lives and livelihood, that person would probably happily pay me thousands of pounds. So it's not just the audience you're targeting. Sometimes you have to think when you're starting out, it makes sense to target a small portion of that audience. And once you've got that initial traction, you can begin expanding that pool and that audience over time, maybe even having different products and different courses that appeal to the wider market of that particular audience. The other problem you need to avoid, and a trap I see a lot of online courses falling into, is they create their course and then they rush straight into trying to market it. This is almost a guaranteed way to fail right now, especially if you don't have an existing audience or pre-established, pre-built credibility where people would know you and recognize you as an authority in that space. You have to think your audience are probably being hit with hundreds of different courses every day from creators who have got frankly bigger budgets than you and are able to quickly establish more of an authority. It doesn't matter how much experience you've got or how many years practice you've had. It doesn't matter that you know more than everyone else out there. If you can't convey that and build trust with your audience, you're not going to survive in this market. So what I say to people who are building a new online course and don't already have that pre-established credibility in the market, you're better off spending the first year not trying to sell your course, but instead trying to build an audience around value-driven content and build that trust and credibility to people you can then sell to later down the line. If you've got budget to invest, use all of that budget in the first year toward building your audience, because it's going to make it so much easier for you to stand out and compete profitably when you actually then come to trying to sell your course. This is one of the biggest unlocks you can take with you. If you can change this perspective when you first launch your course from I need to try and sell it to I'm going to build an audience, this can be such a massive unlock for you getting profitable sales on your course. Most people just aren't willing to take the time to do this step, but it is so important. So now we've got that out the way, let's talk about some of the awareness strategies you can use to generate awareness for your brand and your course. Now, if you don't have budget right now to invest in paid advertising, there's really two main routes that I would suggest you look at, and they both involve building trust, building credibility with your audience first, and delivering value, not at this stage trying to sell the course. The first one is leveraging search. So whether that be Google search, YouTube search, or even TikTok these days is becoming used more and more as a search engine. So what you'll want to do is just write down a list of all of the things that your potential customers might be searching for. Whatever problem your course solves for someone, think about the kind of things that somebody would be typing into Google, YouTube, or TikTok before they even know your course exists. To give you an example here, there's a great channel called Maker Tales, and their founder Jonathan basically shows people how to do 3D printing. He's amassed tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of subscribers now, who all love and subscribe to his content, and he can then transition them from that free content on YouTube into a paid online course. The other thing you'll notice about Jonathan's content is he doesn't hold back on anything. He is giving full breakdowns, full strategies. He's showing people exactly how to do these things, and this is really important. A lot of people don't like giving away all their secret sauce because they think then people won't buy their course, but actually the opposite happens. When it's this competitive, you need to show people why you're different, why you're an expert. If you sound like everybody else out there because you're just going surface level, people aren't going to trust you. Why would they when there's bigger providers with bigger budgets who can establish more authority than you? If you're in a situation where you don't have big budget to put behind this, you need to leverage and show people that you know your stuff. And what actually happens when people realize how much you know and they start receiving all this value for free, they want to pay you. They want to pay you to learn from you directly instead of having to consume YouTube videos and find all the right content all the time. They want that hand-holding experience where they're going to be guided through to the outcome they desire. Will there be people who take the free content and don't buy it? Absolutely, of course there will, but the upside will always far outweigh the downside here. Please do not underestimate this. The next thing you can do is start building some awareness and credibility through leveraging other relationships. So this might be doing guest interviews on podcasts, arranging to speak at events, or holding free workshops. Anything like that where you can start to create a base and a foundation and start getting known in your industry. Let's say, for example, you identify all of the podcasts that are in your space, in your industry, and you create a hit list and start reaching out to the hosts of those podcasts and offering some free training, some free knowledge for their audience. The goal with both of these methods is to make sure that we are building trust, building credibility, and able to build an audience before we now start trying to sell them something. Please do not skip this step because it is absolutely essential. And the reason I recommend search platforms like Google or YouTube over just regular socials like Instagram, for example, is because we can be very specific in who we're targeting just by optimizing the titles of those bits of content and start ranking for particular keywords. If you're putting out content on Instagram, yes, you can use things like hashtags, but it's still not going to be anywhere near as reliable as something that can be SEO optimized, because that way you're mapping your content to the intent of a particular search. So you're able to get in front of the right people at the right time. With social media content, sure, there are a few things you can do to optimize, but it is much harder to guarantee you're going to be seen by the right people. Can it work? Yes, but it can take a very, very long time to get to the stage you need to get to. But this is where the paid channels come in. So we can now here be looking at platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, or even still Google search and YouTube, just by amplifying that reach. And in terms of what platform you use, this is just going to come down to where you think your audience are most hanging out online. You'll also want to bear in mind the different targeting mechanisms and different targeting capabilities of each platform. For example, if you're trying to market a course more in the B2B space, or you're selling to professionals, LinkedIn might be a better platform because you're actually able to target by job titles in a much more effective way than any other platform out there. If you're marketing something where people are very likely to be going on Google and searching for it, maybe Google search could be a good place to start, but it is worth just having a quick look beforehand and seeing what kind of competition you're up against, because that's always something you need to bear in mind with paid search. If it's more of an interest-based thing that doesn't fall into any of those other categories, Facebook and Instagram could be a good place to try, or even TikTok. Another thing you can do here, if you've got a bit of paid budget, and this could also potentially be a free strategy as well, is potentially looking at strategic partnerships or things like list shares, where you'd speak to another company who's in a similar space to you or has a complementary product or service, and you can maybe pay them a certain amount to sponsor one of their email newsletters. Let's say I've got an audience of 100,000 people and all of those are your ideal customer. It would make sense for you to sponsor an email newsletter or put a paid promotion in there, because that can then go out to directly the audience that you want. A great way of doing this is just to find some blogs relating to your particular topic. 9 times out of 10, they will have an email list. If you look around their website to see if there's any opportunities for sponsorship, or even just contacting the owners or the publishers directly. The key here really is you want to always make these relationships a win-win. So another thing you could do, let's say you're mentioning or recommending a particular product or service in your course. If that's the case, it might be worth reaching out to the company that you're recommending and mentioning to them, hey, I'm recommending your program here. I'd love to offer a free training to your audience. Would you mind promoting my course? Maybe you can incentivize them by offering them an affiliate commission. That way it becomes a bit of a no-brainer to them, because they can email their list with something they know is valuable. It's promoting them, it's painting them in a good light, and they can have that as an additional revenue stream because they're going to earn a commission on every product sold. You're effectively borrowing the authority of this bigger player who already has that audience built up. That's why word of mouth is so powerful, because people trust people they know. You've effectively piggybacked on the authority of this company. Now, once we've done all of this, we've got a good level of awareness. We've got a YouTube channel where we're getting consistent views. We've got a blog where we're getting consistent traffic to it. We now need to look at how we can start converting those eyeballs and turning them into leads and sales for our course. So one thing you can do that's been used for years now, but it's still pretty effective in a lot of spaces, is webinars. I think the education company Mindvalley is a great example of this. You'll see how they utilize both YouTube organic search, Google organic search. They're also using paid channels to drive people toward content-based videos that are giving value, and they then transition people from there into a webinar that builds on what they were talking about in the organic content. So that webinar is more free value, but it means they're able to get them onto their email list by getting their name and email address. And then at the end of that webinar, they sell them into their course. This can be a very, very effective strategy when done right. You just need to make sure that your webinar is compelling. The content you're giving in there is compelling. And most importantly, like you'll notice with Mindvalley, it's contextual to the piece of content that somebody's seen. They have hundreds of different webinars on different topics, because the more relevant you can make it to the original piece of content, the more likely it is to convert. The next thing you can use is things like quizzes or assessments. Mindvalley also do this very well. You'll see some examples here where we're targeting a particular audience and hooking them into a quiz that's giving them an assurance of like a certain outcome. It's going to tell them what type of individual they are. It's going to tell them something about themselves that they don't currently know. Other things you can do are things like free modules or free trials to a course. You just need to think, how can you remove as much friction from somebody coming into your world as possible? Let's say I've just consumed a bit of your content. I got tons of value from it. I now have a lot of trust for you and I see you as an expert, and you then offer me a free free next step, a free course to progress my learnings further, it becomes such a no-brainer at that stage. Whereas if you directly transition me there into, hey, buy my course, probably too much too soon. Some people might if they've watched enough of your videos or seen enough of your blogs, but it can take time to get to that stage. So in the early phases, you want to focus on how can I reduce and remove that friction to make this a no-brainer. And then finally, the next thing you want to think about is maybe introducing like a lower ticket offer. So something that's lower priced than your original course. So maybe if your course is £2,500, you might have something that's £127 as an initial offer to give people a taster. The key here is though, it needs to still be solving a valuable problem for someone. So if you're selling this low ticket offer for £127, ideally you want to think about how can I make sure the problem I'm solving is worth at least 10x that amount. This is easier to quantify when you're selling to professionals or in the B2B space because there's usually some sort of monetary ROI attached to something. But if you're selling something that's more on a personal level, you just want to think about how much would somebody be willing to pay to fix this problem. Comes back to the same example I gave earlier in the video of the chiropractor. The idea with this lower ticket offer, it should effectively become what's known as a self-liquidating offer. So what it's doing is it's covering the cost that it's going to take you to acquire a customer. So let's say after building these awareness channels, you find you've then got a cost per acquisition of around £120. If you can create an initial offer for £127, you've just covered the cost it takes to acquire that customer, and from there you're then selling them into the main course. This strategy can be extremely effective when it comes to growing and rapidly scaling campaigns, but it might take some time to find that right balance and the right courses to put in at each stage. The other great thing about this as well is once people are going through that lower ticket offer you have, you're also still building that trust and building that credibility. So you're making it even more likely that somebody is then going to want to pay you for the higher ticket course because you've now helped them to solve a big problem they had and they've just spent several hours with you learning from you. The key with all of this, whether you're looking to generate leads though, or turn those leads into sales for your higher value program, is you need to make this an absolutely irresistible offer. So be sure to stick around for the next video because I'm going to be showing you how to do exactly that. I'll see you there.